Hey guys, I just released a website that is geared to help players improve at a fundamental level, no matter what skill level you're at right now. It has a constantly updated meta report with early game boards, rising comps, and thorough explanations of each comp. The website also has a guide section for fundamentals to help improve and understand the game intuitively, no matter what set it is. And there's also various forms of coaching, including free group coaching, individual paid coaching, and a boot camp to help take your game to the next level. Join my Discord to learn more. Alright guys, what's up? It's me, Voicin again. I'm here to show you how to approach patch 14.18 and basically give you everything you need to succeed without actually looking at your gameplay, right? My job here is to make it as simple as possible because not everyone has time to just grind TFT all day. I had to play a lot of games to figure out what's going on because it is difficult and some of these patches are tricky, but I think we all know that it's an emblem meta right now. A lot of the plus ones are really powerful. The most powerful ones being Blaster and Frost, I think, the most consistent ones, right? They help you like early game spike, mid game spike, and late game spike. There are definitely a ton of the other ones that are really good as well, but I'm also here to show you that you don't only have to just pray for the plus one. There are other things that you could play that are relatively consistent. Will you win the game regularly? No, most likely, but you know, they're still fine, right? So here I'm gonna get into it. Say here that the best hero augments are Zap Attack and Molten Caramel. I think Molten Caramel scales really hard if you hit early and you have good items like the healing item and the AP items. Zap Attack's still good because Honey Mancy is good and Blitz is still immortal. Sweet Tooth, Deja Vu can be in a certain spot. I think Sweet Tooth can spike higher, but it's harder to hit because there's Honey Mancy players all around. You know, Deja Vu, it's harder to hit Galio because there's like a ton of Portal players, Mage players, right? So it is what it is. I'll show you later that a lot of what the default consistent comps are, they revolve around some form of Karma or Rise often, right? You can still play Varus, you can play Callista as well. Callista I think is decent in the right spot, but it's not nearly as forcible, I think. So here, talking about early game boards, because Ezreal got buffed, he's actually really good to carry items for AD. Whether you want to play him into Blaster or not, right? If I had like these items and I was in this spot, I'd probably just force Ezreal, but say someone else has like 5 Ezreals out of nowhere, right? It'll be hard for you to play this, so you'll probably use this to transition into something like Varus. So you could play him as a standard AD champ, but there's actually a very interesting position you could do with Ezreal. You could throw like a BT or a healing item on him, some anti-heal, right? You're angling towards something like Karma or Rise, right? So you do this and then you frontline him so that he'll take damage, it'll help him generate mana, and then he'll dash away and cast and heal back up. It's kind of like Find Your Center Ezreal, but it's like an early game kind of thing, right? That's a little quirky thing you could do. Obviously, you could play the Honey Mancy start. It's a typical Honey Mancy start, right? You get the Poppy 2, the Ziggs 2, have Ziggs carry AP items for Karma or Rise, or you could just choose to play Ziggs Honey Mancy reroll. Right. 100% depends on what your lobby is playing, how many copies of the Honey Mancy units you have. Another interesting thing is, as we're going to talk about later, multi-striker reroll, especially Hecarim and Kassadin, mainly Hecarim, right, is actually pretty good right now, especially if you can hit. If you can hit, it's one of the strongest comps in the game, actually. But, I mean, that's the issue, right? You can use Hecarim and Kassadin to carry your items for your level 8 comp, by the way. Like, say you're playing Karma / Rise, right? The Kassadin can straight up just hold the blue buff or whatever, right? For Karma. This is an interesting way to approach early game, but it's meant to show you that you could play a variety of stuff early game, right? And obviously Hecarim is going to hold the bruise items for Fiora / Olaf, right? But if I was in this spot, especially if I'm uncontested, I would most likely just force the Hecarim, the multi-striker reroll. Hecarim Kassadin, because there's another type of multi-striker reroll that we'll get into later. Here's like a typical portal opener. I put Morello and Shiv on Zoe to indicate that you can flex between either Karma or Rise because these items can go on either, right? Static Shiv is the most flexible item for APs, and both Karma and Rise can use it pretty well. And another opener is Hui Frost. I mean, this has been around since the stuff started, right? So Hui just AP and Frost, you know, with Swain tank or Warwick tank or Galio tank, you know, like it's pretty self-explanatory. With the fairy change though, if you're a Callista player, I'd say 80-90% of the time your opener is going to look like this, where you just play 3 fairy Triss with Rumble. or any blaster, right? Like any blaster. Ezreal is probably ideal because Ezreal's a good unit. But then your level 6 would be like Rumble and maybe a Vanguard for a bit of tankiness, right? So this is what like your team would look like. And getting guaranteed remover each stage, you don't even feel bad about getting the items off. So if you get like a Triss 2, you get these items, it's gonna carry you all of stage 3, I think. And it's early stage 4 kind of, if you can't find Kalista. And here's the typical Frost Dragon Hunter line. A lot of times people use this to play into Varus shapeshifters, but I'm gonna show you like another variation of Varus that you might not be familiar with, and it's pretty unexplored. I haven't played that much, but theoretically, if you have the right spot and you hit the units, should be a decent top 4, right? And then here's the typical multi-striker Ashe start with Eldritch, so that you play into like, it'd be weird to play into Kalista from this spot, right? Because it's much easier to play Fairy into Fairy because it's awkward here. But this could be played into Varus, this could be played into Ashe reroll, this could be played into basically those things, right? Augments. A lot of the good augments are +1, like the crest and all that, but there are certain ones that are kind of flexible, but just good in general. So the god tier ones is Winter's Coming, right? Very specific to Frost. It replaced Frosty Frontline, but I mean, it's just as broken. It might be even more broken, right? That wolf is tanky and useful at all stages of the game. Obviously Frost +1, Portal +1, Fairy +1, Honey Metzi +1, Blaster +1, Chrono +1. Not sure if I'm missing one. Oh yeah, Witchcraft +1 is okay, but I feel like Witchcraft +1, the crest is the broken one. Crown is not that good because it gives you a Hextech Gunblade. That item is useless to set. But a lot of its power also is behind hitting possibly 2 Witchcraft emblems. A lot of these +1s, a big win con is getting another emblem and then hitting the highest synergy line, and a lot of them are just win outs, right? If you're curious, the best one is Eldritch, which makes sense because you need 3 emblems compared to the rest, right? The best one out of the 2 emblem requirements is Portal. Okay, yeah. So, but the ones that aren't emblems, like Unleash the Beast, What the Forge, Support Golem 2, Living Force, these just give you so much raw power. Unleash the Beast specifically is really good for Hecarim reroll. Honestly, if you get Unleash the Beast, I'd probably angle 80% Hecarim reroll. Otherwise, you just go and play like Fiora/Olaf Flex, right? It's actually a decent amount of options. Really good ones: Freaky Friday, Support Golem 1, Molten Caramel, Aggressive Preservation, Tiniest Titan, At What Cost, Level Up, Press the Attack, and Multi-Striker +1. These are just really, really good, but are they just so broken that it almost insta-clicks? No, but they are really good. And obviously, if you like playing Flex, aka a lot of times just level 8 comps around 4 costs, right? Like I mentioned, Living Forge is good. Risky Moves are really good because the gold is just so much, right? And you need a lot of gold if you want to play these level 8 comps, because they're oftentimes very expensive. Over Encumbered gives you a lot of items for your multiple carries, both support golems, station support 1, right? Just the value of a dummy with a support item is really, really good. So you're kind of just cashing in on that late game spike. Freaky Friday, Flexible, still decent. It's a prismatic, but it gets tricky to play around. But if you high roll the spot, especially if you get +2 of a good chase trait, that probably instant top 2, honestly. Silver and Prismatic reroll, it's still Prismatic ticket for reroll. It's still okay, it's still decent, right? You play into Honey Metzi, you could play into like other reroll comps like Cassiopeia, Shapeshifters, even Kog'Maw, but that's kind of just Honey Metzi. Mages sometimes, right? Multi-strikers is a good comp for this as well. All That Shimmers still generates decent amount of gold. Buried Treasures 3, a lot of tempo with just simply a lot of items. Obviously better if you get a 2-1 as opposed to 3-2 because then you get the spike earlier. Giant and Mighty Movable Object are just good in general for keeping your team alive. Very useful for honestly anything you're playing. They're the best like general prismatics. And now we're gonna go over the comp list. So S tier, Pikachu Blitzcrank basically is just Zap Attack, right? Honey Metzi got reworked. It's really good. Basically, all you do with this is just reroll Blitzcrank and Ziggs. Because most of the units are 1 cost that you really care about, you do roll at level 4 so that you can get as many copies of Blitzcrank and Ziggs as possible, because the priority is getting Blitz 3 and Ziggs 3. There is somewhat of a merit to roll at 5 instead, so you can get the Kog'Maw and Vhagar, and then the Nunu 3-star as well. Honestly, I'd rather guarantee a lot of copies of Blitzcrank and Ziggs first. Obviously, we mentioned Hecarim reroll, really good. The biggest issue with this comp is not necessarily the comp strength, but it's getting Hecarim 3. There might be another person rerolling multi-strikers, right? Not looking at your board. There might be multiple people playing Arcana, right? So it might be hard to hit Hecarim 3, but if you can hit it, especially with the Kassadin 3, it's honestly almost an instant top 3. Especially with Unleash the Beast, right? So like I mentioned, Unleash the Beast, press attack. What the Forge is actually decent in this comp because you can get the Giga Nuts combo like Prowler's Claw, Silvermere Dawn, and then Horizon Focus. Like some crazy combo. Hecarim can use a decent amount of artifacts, and so can Kassadin, right? So let's like he used Death's Defiance, right? And then Kassadin can use like Zhonya's Mittens, right? And the Seeker's Arm Guard, like it's actually one of the best, I think. Best augments for this. And then we start to go into S-. The reason I put this in S- because they're gated by a +1 emblem. Some of these comps are really strong if you get a +1 emblem, but because they're gated behind an augment, I don't think it's consistent enough to warrant like S or S+. So we all know Frost +1 is good, right? Helps you get 3 Frost, 5 Frost, 7 Frost earlier, and if you get another Frost, you will scale really well into the game, unless you're facing other chase traits. So it's typically just play the strongest board until you get Varus, and then Olaf at 8. You're fine with using Hui, Twitch, not Hui, Namzi, Twitch, Kog'Maw, Jinx, whoever, to hold your 80 items until you get Varus. And then typically, maybe Warwick is going to hold your Bruiser items, right? Even a random Jax, right, to hold Olaf because you get 2 Chrono. Even stuff like Hecarim can be okay, but it's hard to fit him into something like this to hold items. But what I really want to talk about is actually the flex comps, so the level 8 comps. Like I keep mentioning, right, it's Rise and Karma. So Rise over here, there's 2 variants. Obviously, we know the vertical portal, which means you just do slap in 6 or 8 portal, ideally 8 portal, right? But the issue is it's hard to hit 8 portal without an emblem, because if you don't have an emblem, you can't reliably hit 8 portal because it's hard to hit Nora. And at level 9, if you don't have an emblem, you can't fit in mage without a portal emblem. Having a portal emblem, right, like I mentioned, a lot of these aren't just so that your late game spikes are better. It makes your early and mid game spikes better. So you're unable to hit 6 portal a lot of the time stage 3 without emblem. So without emblem, a lot of times what challengers want to do is they want to play into Arcana Rise instead. So they drop down to 3 portal. Typically, obviously it says 4 portals here, but we're assuming we don't get Nora. Your late game spike is you drop Taric for Diana and then you add in Nora. Your level 8 oftentimes is gonna look like Tahm Kench, Hecarim, Taric, Galio, Ahri, Nami, Rise, and a +1 mage. If you don't find Nora, it's usually Vex, right? Because Vex is most useful. This is a stronger comp than just throwing 6 portal in, because you have a duo carry in Nami and Arcana Tahm Kench, right? You put the charm on Tahm Kench is actually really strong stage 4, and it buys your team a lot of tankiness for a Rise to scale with Archangel and stuff, right? You don't want to put the charm on Xerath, which you put at level 9, right? Xerath comes at level 9. You don't want to put it on him until you get 15 charms or so, because the tankiness of Tahm Kench can't be understated. It's really good to buy time for Rise. Honestly, if your frontline isn't that great, you could leave it on Tahm Kench the whole game. The charm. So the other popular 4-cost comp is Karma Flex. I think a lot of us, especially my last video, right, we're aware of Karma Warriors, so I won't expand on that, right? But there's another variant of Karma, and I want to demonstrate how challengers view the game when the meta is flexible, right? I want to demonstrate another comp that's viable right now, and it's Karma Olaf. Obviously, Olaf can use the same items Fiora has, so the approach we have is we play around whatever unit we upgrade first. So with these items, I think it's safe to say we can only play Karma, right? So we established that Karma is the only backliner we could play with these items, because there's not any backline blue buff user late game, right? We established that, but because these AD items on Olaf are flexible, we build our team based on what we hit first. So if we hit Olaf 2 first, or Olaf pair, right, whatever, then we start adding in the other pieces, because Nasus is like a key tank, right? Key tank until you find Morgana, right? It's hard to find Morgana at 8. So a lot of times we do Nasus plus Shapeshifter. So in this case, we add in a Swain to fulfill the 3 Frost. Does Olaf 1 Hunter? Sure. I think Jinx could be a good unit until you find Morgana. So instead of Morgana, you put in Jinx at level 8. That would probably fit pretty well, right? But obviously you want to replace her for Morgana because it's a much more valuable unit and trait. I just want to demonstrate, I want to show you how you can play flexibly this patch. It's not only just an emblem patch, right? There are options, but a lot of the options in Challenger are limited to playing around Rise or Karma, I think, because they're so flexible item-wise. So another comp that's on the rise is Warwick. Obviously, we know Vampiric Scepter, right? Vampiric Scepter is probably an instant top 4 if you don't low roll like crazy, right? I've been seeing if you have enough works early that you don't necessarily even need it. You would do obviously Rageblade, Quicksilver. I think those are non-negotiable unless you have Unleash the Beast, right? Then you could drop Quicksilver. But then the last item could be Titans. I like Titans because since they got an AP buff, Warwick heals more from his autos. So yeah, something to consider. Would I play this if I have 1 Warwick and no Vampiric Scepter? No. But say if I have like 5 Warwicks and my items are looking decent, even without Vampiric Scepter, I would consider this an option. And yeah, decent comp right now. And here's probably the best reroll comp in the game right now that's reliable, has one of the highest caps in the game, and it's Blaster reroll. I'm sure we're all aware of it. If you get dropped in early Ezreal with 80 items, or early Hui with AP items, right, like you can definitely look to angle this. The issue is it's hard to hit 3 stars, and you kind of want a lot of golden items for this. It's always been the problem with this comp. But since Ezreal is so strong early in mid game, you don't lose a ton of HP trying to just force this anymore. But I would only look to play this if I have a good spot for it, right? Can you just fit it? Can you just force this if you're low rolling and you're like 40 HP approaching stage 4? I mean, if you high roll, sure, but you have to be prepared to like lose a couple of fights here and there during stage 4s. If you're low HP, it's tough. Obviously, you want double Chojin, one on Hui, one on Ezreal. Both these units can carry anti-heal items, but I like Hui carrying the anti-heal item a little bit more, so Ezreal can just have flat damage because he's a beast right now. In tank items, obviously more 3 is fine, but if you get a random Galio 3 or Rumble 3 before Mord, you can throw tank items on them instead. A tier, Kog'Maw still Kog'Maw. Oh, the picture didn't update. Basically, what you want to do here, all you have to do is take out Tristana for Jinx. I think playing for this, ignore the picture for a second, playing for this comp is you want a Hunter +1 from what I've seen. So that way what you would do is drop Lilia Tristana, right? Obviously they don't play into this comp anymore because Fairy is a 3 trait now. It would be Jinx plus another Hunter. Obviously, it would be Olaf, ideally. And then you just throw the Hunter emblem on like Rumble or something. Or Blitzcrank, it doesn't really matter, right? Then what would happen is 4 Hunter, and then you do 3 Honeymancy, 2 Bastion, 2 Vanguard, right? That's basically what it is. I think it's still strong in the right spot, but I think it's best if you get a Hunter +1. Okay, now we're going to talk about another comp that can scale high. I'm sure you guys all have seen it, right? It's Callista Fairy. It's really, really good with a +1 emblem or Royal Guard, but because it's so inconsistent, right? I think if you don't have either of those, you really, really want to go level 9 because you need Milio, Camille, and Morgana to really cap out, and having 3-5 costs is expensive, right? And unreliable. So it's not like you could play this most games. But if you get like the Fairy +1, if you get Royal Guard, and you're able to stabilize and reach level 9, it is one of the best comps in the game, late game. But you need a lot of things to get, it's a lot of pieces to really win out. So it's A+ for now because it's inconsistent, right? Say you're low rolling, you're stuck on 8. Can it stabilize you as hard as the other comps, more forecast comps? Not really, I think. Yeah. Another emblem comp is Witchcraft. I really like Witchcraft Crest because the issue with Witchcraft Crown is that it gives you a Hextech Gunblade and that item is useless this set. But +1 is really good, right? You would just play as if... I gave you 2 options, right? Just to show that it's not only Karma you can play around, because typically you play around Karma. because he spreads it very well. But if you have Rise items and then you don't find any Karmas, you just play Rise instead. And the pieces are similar, right? Obviously the base Witchcraft units stay, but it's just that your tanks change, right? So instead of Nasus, it's like Tark to fit into Portal and Bastion. It's very flexible, but you can only play this with an emblem. It's like a lot of other traits this set. If you get another one and you get a Morgana, you get 8 Witchcraft in at 8. Very high possibility you'll get top 2. And then here's Rumble Hero Augments. Self-explanatory, 4 Vanguard with Triss in the back for Blaster. Yeah, I mean, it's just good. It's good in general. It might fall off late game though. But for someone who can't burst down your team, or someone, especially someone with weak frontline in stage 4, and you hit Rumble 3 by stage 4, you're gonna obliterate everyone. Here's Honeymancy reroll. Here's without the Hero Augment, right? Blitzcrank Zap Attack. It's good without Hero Augment, but a lot of times with this, you're only playing for top 4 because the way you actually cap out after you hit Ziggs 3 and Blitzcrank 3 is you need to reach Zerath for your Lakin carry, right? Supplementary damage. Ideally, even Diana in as well. So it's just like, it's to cap out in top 2, a lot of times you have to just high roll. So this cop will only be A+ for now. Kind of want to hit your Ziggs early, have good items, blitz early, you know. It's this, can you play 20-20 Honeymancy reroll? As in you play it every single game? Well, it depends on elo, but strength wise, it's never, I don't think it's S tier, right? It's definitely a good option though. If you really want to win out, a lot of times you need +2 Honeymancy emblems. So to reach that 7 trait, that's where it gets really strong. But I mean, you need 2 Honeymancy emblems, that's the issue. And Chrono, another emblem that's good. Chrono, you would play as regular Karma, just with a bit more Chrono units, right? Your early game, a lot of times, since you play around Vex, a lot of times you're gonna play mages early, I think, early in mid game. And then Seraphine or whatever can hold the Chrono emblem, something like that. Right, you reached the 4 Chrono earlier. The issue with this comp is if you're not high rolling and you don't have the ability to go 9, a lot of times you're stuck on 8 and you're just in Camille jail and you're just praying for Camille. If you get it, it feels good, but how reliable? I don't like a comp to revolve around the 5 cost because 6 Chrono breakpoint is really strong, right? But I mean, if you hit it and you hit the emblem and you have stabilized your board, you're probably going to do very, very well in that game. Another reroll comp, it's another form of multi-striker. So obviously a lot of us know the Hack Room casting reroll, but Ashe Jax reroll is actually still good. They reworked Ashe a little bit, right? The items are flexible. You don't need double Rage Blade. You can do 1 Rage Blade, last Whisper Runand. You can even add a Spirit Shojin now because they changed how her ability works. Death Blade, right? Jax just uses general tank items, honestly. Yeah, it's the same as last patch. It's decent. It's 8+, you know. Like if you get stuff like anger issues, it's good. Category 5, press attack, right? It's fine. Prismatic Ticket is really good if you have the items for it. And then you just hit early and just scale into late game to find Camille and Callista and Zerath. Another comp that's decent. Another +1 comp is Scholar. Now, this is kind of like a low-key tech. Obviously, it's Rise. 6 Scholar is actually really, really good, but the issue is you're in Milio jail. You can't play 6 Scholar without Milio, and Milio is a good unit. So because you're in Milio jail, it's not reliable at all. But say you get Milio at 8, or you stabilize hard at 8, and you can go 9 for Milio and Zerath. One of the best scaling comps in the game, honestly. Very, very strong, but it is what it is. And I'm sure we all know Shapeshifter Blaster. It was decent last patch. Still good now. Solid A tier comp. There will be a lot of times where you won't be able to find a Briar and Smolder at 8 and you low roll and then you go 7th. So that's why it can never be S tier. But say you high roll, you're able to go 9. Say you have level up, whatever, right? And then you go 9. You find Varus, Smolder 2, Briar 2. Easy top 2, I think. But again, you need so much, right? And here's actually a really underrated comp. So I don't know how much you guys seen Cassiopeia reroll. It's decent. It's pretty good. Solid A tier comp if you play regularly. Especially you kind of want to have at least 1 rod or bow to play this, because if you can't get Ginsu's Rage Blade, this comp is unplayable. But a secret is you really want 2 tanky. 2 tanky with this comp is broken, right? So what would 2 tanky look like to play this comp? It would be literally just you drop Elise, drop Swain. It's double Shyvana, double Nico. You don't need 2 tanky on Cassiopeia or Syndra. And Syndra could be any encounter, by the way. This unit is not very good. So it's double Shyvana, double Nico. That's your level 6 with Cassio plus encounter, usually Syndra, right? Your level 7 probably is going to be double Cassio. But level 8, I like to drop the second Cassio for 4 shape. So then you would do 2 shapeshifter bots and then double Shyvana and double Nico. I really like getting Nico 3 as well a lot in this comp. So after you hit Cassiopeia and Shyvana at 6, right? You roll out level 6, they'll go level 7, finish getting Nico 3, and then you go 8. But if you get too tanky and you have anything that even mildly resembles Cass items, I would just force this comp. You don't even need Cassiopeia 3 if you have too tanky, because your front line is just so insane. The A- is Jinx reroll. Wukong got nerfed. I think Jinx also got nerfed, right? So it's like not as good as it once was. In certain spots, it's decent if you have like Hunting Frenzy or Category 5. Can you play this every game? I strongly don't recommend it, right? Galileo, Hero Augment. Galileo's really contested. It doesn't even scale that well, this comp. This is just play for a 4th if you hit. And that's a big caveat, if you hit, you know? That's why it's A-. It's good, it's playable, it's like alright, you know? Same with Varus Pyro. You need the Pyro emblem, and even if you get it, you're in Smolder jail. You're in Smolder 2 jail, actually, to win out, right? Or get top 2, so... Unreliable, need an emblem, doesn't cap as high as the other comps, I think, even with an emblem. Vhagar is actually sleeper. It's the stats say he's alright, but there are certain circumstances where you just like do very well, like the Prismatic Ticket hit Vhagar 3, Vex 3 in stage 4. But is it nearly as forcible as it once was? No. Certain spots, it's still a first or 8 comp, but it's harder to get first now. And here is honorable mentions. There's a comp that's been floating around. It was floating around last patch, but it's called Varus Arcana. Issue with warriors, but the issue is I mean, everyone wants these warrior units, because in Challenger there's like 2 Karma players, 3 Karma players sometimes. They all want this, right? The multi-striker, well, not multi-striker, the warrior reroll players want like Fiora and Gwen as well. You know, it's like, alright. But yeah, this is something you can play if you get a lot of 80 items. Say you just slam an Infinity Edge, and then you start getting Fiora items, right? This is something you should look to play. Your level 8 would just be minus Zareth. Relatively cheap. Your Tahm Kench is your main tank, right? You play around the warriors, and then you Varus is your backline DPS, and then Rumble is to give Vanguard Blaster. Like Rise, you want to put the charm on Tahm Kench because, I mean, frontline is frontline, right? The HP is very valuable. And once you get 15 charms or so, and you have Zareth at level 9, you can put the charm on him. Obviously, at level 8, if he has his Zareth, it's over Ahri, because it's a better unit, but something to consider as a level 8 flex comp. As you notice, this comp doesn't really need emblem. So there are some sleeper options that you could play without emblem, right? And the augments that are kind of sleeper, too tanky, like I mentioned. Really good, especially for Shapeshifter reroll. And Draconic Mastery, that is the one where you get a Smolder after 60 takedowns. You just play Nomsy reroll with Shyvana. It's decent. And then Higher Education helps Scholars, helps Rise, especially if you have the +1 Scholar. Higher Education plus it's like a Scholar emblems is like actually a nuts combo. This is basically the patch rundown. Hope I've given you guys enough to do well this patch. I know it's difficult to set. There's a bunch of, it might seem there's not a lot of consistent comps, and it's kind of true, kind of not, right? There's not a lot of consistent comps that you could play and stabilize at 8 and stay 8 and get a top 2 right now. But yeah, a lot of it is emblem focused, but there are things like that I've mentioned that you can play without an emblem. Hope this is enough. Good luck on your climb, guys. Bye bye.